No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. That's why Club Wealth was founded, to help driven, successful, and busy real estate agents like you double their business while building a strong, balanced home life. Join us each week as high-producing agents and team leaders share their stories and unpack the principles and systems they've used to double, triple, and even quadruple their business while enjoying greater quality of life. And now, here's the latest episode of Club Wealth TV.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Hellickson with Club Wealth. I'm one of the coaches here, and this is Club Wealth TV. Super excited to have just an awesome group with us today. Of course, you guys know Coach Cherie Benjamin. You also know Coach Brian Curtis. These two are rock stars. They're my co-hosts on Club Wealth TV. And of course, you know, we do mix that up. So usually they're the co-hosts, but once in a while we mix that up to kind of just keep it interesting. But that being said, Brian and Cherie are both ballers, have done very, very well in their careers. And Cherie looks really excited this morning. She's like, Hellickson, just get through the intro. Jeez, what a lame intro. Anyway, that being said, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's in the hundreds. I know, like Coach Cherie, what we were just talking about when she started with Club Wealth, I think, 2.5, 3 years ago, was it 35 transactions in her best year. And this year, Cherie, I think the number is, it's over 400. I know it's over 400. I can't remember the exact number, but in 2018, it was a big number. And Brian Curtis, also over 330 transactions last year. Crushing it, which is really awesome because that's like 75% of the homes sold in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is really cool. It's a small town. He even sold the stoplight. That is what's really impressive, is he sold the stoplight to someone to use as a nightlight. Very interesting. It's a whole other story. That being said, Ryan, and I'm going to get this right, it's Skrzypkowski.
You've got it.
Anyway, long story short, Ryan's been in the business just under 3 years. In this last year, did $1.3 million in gross commission income, which is awesome. Very excited about that. And so we're going to talk more about that. Before we do, I need to give a shout out to our sponsor for today's show. That's Wise Hire. This is a company that Brian, Cherie, and I all use for recruiting. And Wise Hire, as you know, you can reach them. We get a discount there for you guys. So if you want their help, whether it's recruiting an administrative assistant or a buyer agent or a listing agent or whatever positions you need to fill on your team, go to clubwealth.com /Wise Hire. And Tara, if you could type that into the Facebook group, or excuse me, not the group, but the page into the chat there, that would be awesome. Or anybody, if you could type in clubwealth.com /Wise Hire, that's where you get our discount. So let's get started without any further ado. Ryan, talk to us. How in the heck did you go from brand new agent to $1.3 million in gross commission income in your first 3 years?
Yeah, so you know, I'd like to tell you that there's some kind of a secret sauce or something that we did that was massively different. But I mean, I got licensed in 2015, and I just make sure. Sorry for I just want to make sure that my Facebook's turned off here. I just heard a little bleep. So licensed in 2015. So my first full year in the business was 2016. And I had got into the business, had no sphere of influence, I obviously, as you can hear from my accent, I didn't grow up in Sarasota, Florida, and literally knew nobody, and just went at expireds and for sale by owners like crazy, really, and dedicated all my time to to developing those lead sources and developing a business here for myself. And actually, the year 2016, I closed 5 transactions in my first year, which wasn't too spectacular, but I had built up a fair amount of inventory throughout that year, and certainly laid the groundwork to close $20 million in sales in my first full year, which was 2016. So January 1st to December 31st was, that was the first time I'd completed a full year, and so 20 million in sales. And since then, it's definitely, my business has definitely grown substantially. But one of the things that I'm actually more proud of is the consistency that we've developed over that time. When we did this 20 million in sales, I think that we actually made money in 2 months, or we did all the business in 2 months. We had like this amazing amazing March, and then this amazing September, and pretty much closed nothing, nothing throughout the rest of the year. But as time's gone on, and as I've become knowledgeable on my leading indicators, my I know my numbers very well. I geek out on the number of calls I'm making, the number of appointments I'm going on, and I commit to a certain number, and I don't stop until I've created, until I've laid those foundations. And what it's done over time is given us a very, just a very consistent business. It's, we're closing a similar amount each month. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's still up and down like anybody's business would be, I guess, but it's become much more consistent, which is what I'm very proud of.
So Ryan, you're in one of my favorite places, which is Sarasota, because you guys have awesome fishing down there. Yeah. The blue water is amazing. I love Sarasota. I do. It was one of the places we were considering moving to when we moved out of Atlanta. So talk to me about, I like to always just go back to that beginning, because we have a lot of people who listen in, and that's the stage that they're at. They're more in that beginning stage. So some of the things that you just said are echoed with all of the top producers. It's the commitment, it's the consistency, it's the schedule. So when you were only doing 5 deals, even though that wasn't a full year, but that 5 deals that you did, what was it or what change did you do or action did you take so that the next year it set you off for that 20 million that you all did?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. So I actually, I started in the business and really didn't have a clue what I was doing. I literally knew absolutely nothing. I joined a very small brokerage, which gave me no guidance whatsoever. Although the guidance that I did get was very personal, on a one-on-one basis. They didn't have any kind of, structured training. And so I was in the business for about 3 or 4 months before I went to a real estate training seminar, and it just kind of hit me like a light bulb. I was like, this is for the first time I actually felt like I was with my people. I was with a group of people who were all committed to growth, all committed to doing fantastic things. And so I actually made a commitment to myself then very early on in the career, in my career, that I would get into coaching. I couldn't afford it at the time. I hadn't even closed a deal at that time, and that was that was difficult. So I made a commitment to myself that I would basically do enough business to get into coaching. And and I guess I don't know what you'd call it, whether it's elephant hunting, whether it but I mean our average price in our market is around 340,000. It's so I mean it's a nice average price range, but I've really just gone after the biggest fish in the market. So even day one, when so my first ever listing was actually a for sale by owner that was on the market for $2.8 million. And I showed up, I managed to book this appointment with this for sale by owner. And because I'm as a very young agent, I'm thinking to myself, if I can just sell something like that, this is going to set me up, and this is going to be a fantastic way for me to kick off my business. And I ultimately listed some very nice homes, and I'm kind of darting around here, so let me pull it into my first listing and tell you the story on how that happened. I just started calling for sale by owners, and as most people would probably start with the lower end ones to try and find the fee. I'm whether this is me being smart or whether this is complete stupidity, but I started with the top, with the most expensive, and and I managed to get this lady on the phone who had this property for sale, and spoke to her a few times. She didn't want to give me an appointment, and she eventually broke. She said, okay, Ryan, I'll give you 10 minutes. You can come over and see me. So I went over to her house. The marketing was absolutely terrible. I didn't really know what I was walking into because the photographs online were so bad. But I've got this very vivid image where I drove onto the driveway, and I had never been inside a house that was even marginally close to that. I'd never even stepped foot in a house. I didn't, I wasn't really, from that world at all. And I can remember just going through the gates and looking at this house, and I didn't have a clue how to get in it. It was just so big, and and it was just something that was I was like, I can't even believe that I've got an appointment here. So I walked through the door. She gave me 10 minutes. That 10 minutes turned into an hour and a half, and I actually walked out with a commitment to list at that point. And she asked me a question while we all sat together, and I'd done a lot of research coming into this. I knew everything that I wanted to do for her. I had my whole listing process down. And she said to me, "How many houses did you sell last year?" And I said I'm going to answer that question with complete honesty. I said I didn't sell a house last year because I've only been in the business for a couple of months. And she said and she kind of smirked, and I said to her that I said, but here's the thing. I've got nothing. I said, I want to make a mark for myself in this industry, and I've got nothing to do other than to sell your home. And if I list your home, and if I sell your home, and if I put everything into selling your home, and I believe that I can sell it. She said, I said, it's obviously going to be a win for you, and it'll be a huge win for me to start off my career. So she ended up listing with me. And I actually I kept her as a client for 90 days before she fired me, because I really didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Well, okay, but you didn't have a clue what you were doing. But here's the thing. I think that a lot of people are super scared with just going after that. I mean, you were this little tadpole in the pond.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't know what I didn't know.
You didn't, but you started at the top. So why did you do that? Why did you start at the top and not do what every agent does, which is start with the lowest ones? Because, just in case, I'm so scared, they're going to scream at me and all of that. What made you say, I'm starting at the top?
Yeah, do you know what? I don't actually know what was going through my mind at that time, because it was actually ridiculous what I was actually trying to do. So to look back on that, I'm not sure, but knowing what I know now, luxury clients are they need agents just like anybody else. I mean, there's and I think that the market's thinner. The people that are actually marketing to those clients, there's probably fewer people doing it. And for me, and my average price range now is about a little under 800,000. So I mean, and we've got a large spread between $200,000 homes that we sell and $3 million homes. But I find that my luxury clients, and this isn't obviously a black, there's no I don't like to paint everybody with the same brush, but generally they understand service, they understand business, they understand a young guy that wants to do well for himself. They understand when I'm trying to go above and beyond for them. I could reference many times that I've had clients on the lower end of the spectrum, and and we have absolutely bent over backwards and done everything that we possibly can do to dedicated a lot of time and effort into making things happen for them, and it's often not seen. Whereas in the with the higher end market, a lot of my higher end clients are business professionals, and they know when they understand the system, and they know when you're going above and beyond, and I like that.
I think that some of it might be that they understand you, like they understand the grit, they understand the grind, they've had to work hard themselves to get to where they are.
Absolutely.
So I definitely get that. Talk to me about when you say the word. There's a couple of words that you use that I want you just to dive a little bit deeper on. Use the word consistency, and you use the word commitment. Yeah. So let's start with the word consistency, or no, let's start with the word commitment actually, because we need that we can get.
Yeah. So the two are tied together. So I think it's being committed to, it's, we've all heard this term before, are you interested or are you committed? And the two very different places. When you commit to something, so to start with, I mean, to kind of peel back the layers, you have got to be very real with yourself, and you've got to be in this place where your word is your bond to yourself and to others. If you say that you're going to do this, you follow through and you do it. If I made a commitment to you, Sherry, and if you said to me, in the year 2024, we are going to meet at this place at this time in this coffee shop, whether it exists or not, that's where we're going to be. I will be there at that time on that date, no matter when it is. And I think that just getting real to that, and just being a person that can be relied upon. In order to be a team leader, you've got to be tremendously committed to your team, committed to, because if your team, to me, commitment is trust. If you can commit to something, and if you can show the world that you are committed to that task that you've set yourself, then it would be easy for people to trust you as a leader, as an individual, as a real estate agent, the minute that you start making commitments and falling short of those commitments is where real damage is done to a relationship.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, it doesn't have to just deal with in the team leader aspect. It doesn't matter if you're an individual agent, if you're an agent on the team, or whatever that is. It's if you're committed, and like you said, you've got to start with yourself. What am I doing this for? So what am I committed to doing every day that turns into that consistency?
Absolutely.
I think that consistency that you need to have there. So walk me through early 2016. It's January 2016, your first full year. So it's just right after those first few months, what was the commitment that you made and that you stuck to that made that difference in 2016?
Yeah, so for me, it's always been from day one. I don't want to say from day one, because it wasn't like this in the beginning, but from very early on, being committed to prospecting in the morning. I have a very strict morning routine where, and it's kind of got earlier and earlier, and now my alarm clock goes off at 4:15. I used to think that 5:30 or 6 o'clock was early, and it's amazing. No, absolutely. And, and it's amazing how, and it's, even now at 4:15, like you kind of, you cram your morning with everything that you need to do, and you still don't have enough time to, but it's, but it starts with the morning routine. And, everybody who's around me, whether my wife and I haven't even spoken about my wife and kids, but that's obviously a whole nother world. But everybody around me knows that they don't talk to me until 11 o'clock. I get up at 4:15. I have a very strategic routine. I don't ever really have appointments unless it can't, if it can be avoided at all, then I won't schedule anything throughout that time. And and it's not actually just 5 days a week. I also do the same thing on a Saturday morning. And I actually also do one evening call-in session a week as well. So I actually have 7 call-in sessions throughout the week.
Ryan, you're making me look like a chump over here. I don't do that 6 days a week. My goodness.
Well, I tell you what, champions are made on Saturday mornings when you're you make all the ground. Yeah, you make all the ground when everybody else is out doing something else. It's and it doesn't have to get in the way of fun. We go out and do fun stuff once that's done. Family time begins at 11 o'clock on a Saturday, but that's I actually could go all week and not book any appointments, go in on a Saturday morning and book 6 or 7 appointments because I'm getting everybody on the phone. So I think that's a key for everybody.
Yeah, there's no question prospecting on Saturday mornings works. I want to come back to something really quick that this has been a topic of conversation conversation in the Club Wealth Facebook group here in the last, little bit. And that is, we were asking people, what are the things that have made you the most successful? What are the things that if you could go back and change, you would? And the common responses that we're getting, it's not, oh, I would have got this CRM, or, oh, I would have got this piece of technology, and, oh, AI would have made this big difference in my career, and I should have hired so-and-so and bought this shiny object. It all comes back to and I'll tell you, the higher the producer, the more homes they're selling per year, the more likely they are to have said something as simple as sticking to the basics on a daily basis and doing the freaking grind, doing the things that nobody else either can or wants to do on a regular basis. And I tell you, it's so, and I don't want to say it's not eye-opening for me at this point, because this is something I've known for a long time, but I think that, you guys have as well. But I think it's something that needs to be eye-opening for the entire industry, which is quit trying to reinvent the wheel. Quit trying to find the magic pill, the shiny object, the unicorn, because that's not where the magic is. The magic is in the boring day-to-day, doing the grind, the stuff that brings you that ultimate success. And people just don't want to do that because it's not fun. They want to do, we're all, or I should say all, most great real estate agents have ADD. So we're attracted to those shiny objects, and we're distracted by, oh, well, I'm bored over here, so I want to go do this. Write this down. Everybody watching this, write this down. Success is boring. End of the day, right? I mean, Ryan, would you agree with that? I mean, has success been...
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's so I actually so I'm with a Coldwell Banker office out on Longboat Key here, and just a few doors down from me, there's a gentleman who is the number one single agent in the state of Florida throughout all brokerages. His name's Roger Pettingill, and he does about 115 million a year by himself. I mean, he's the only selling agent. He does have a team around him of he's got about seven people on his team that are all salaried, which is a fantastic team model, by the way. I mean, I don't know what it's but it's obviously very, very profitable, although you don't get too much time away. But one of the things that's so amazing to me in his business is, of the 7 people that are in his business, he hasn't had one staff change for 4 years. So everybody has done that exact same job for 4 years. And there's, so he does a lot of farming throughout the area that we're in. And he actually just released a section of his website, which has basically got documents all of his farming market reports that he's put out to every community, and I went on there just to take a look, and I scrolled right down to the bottom. His farming letters began in 2008, and he hasn't missed 1 month of farm. He hasn't missed one market update to that particular community that I was looking at. Literally for 9 years, not 1 month, and it's, and I think it is boring, and it's doing, it's not something that's rocket science. This gentleman is obviously, simply mailed to a neighborhood for 9 years, and now he's doing $115 million in sales. The problem is that nobody, it's kind of bred in us as agents to not be that way. It's not natural for me to be consistent. It's very difficult for me to be consistent. But I think that when you understand that fact, and when the goal's big enough, I mean, I actually so what I do is this, and this might help anybody that's watching, is I take my goal, and then I break the whole thing down to how many hours of power I need to commit to in order to create whatever that GCI may be, and you can calculate how much each hour is worth, and every hour that I spend on the phone is worth a little over $830. So when I have a new person join my team, I ask him this question: if I paid you $830 for every hour that you spent on the phone, how many hours a day would you spend on the phone? And they're like, I would spend every hour on and I'm like, exactly. You would spend yeah.
Cut you off for a second here. So $830 an hour, I think that's some pretty good stuff. How many people are you calling an hour?
That's a good question. It depends.
Ballpark.
Yeah. So between 20 to 40. If I'm nurturing customers, I'm probably, it could even be as low as 15 if I'm having a lot of conversations. But 40 would be max.
Okay. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, for the people watching, that you're making 40 calls an hour, and that's actually going to help the math be more in a negative way. But even making 40 calls an hour, this is the thing that I think that people don't get. Every time Ryan picks up the phone, he makes $20. Not when someone answers, not when he sets an appointment, not when any of those other things happens. When he picks up his phone, literally picks it up, hits dial, he just made $20.
Yeah.
That is something that, for me, helps a lot of people if they can figure that out. Now, you're at an $800,000 average sales price, so that's not going to necessarily be true in my market of $200,000. But when I sit down and do the math, most people on my team still make $8 or $9 every time they pick up the phone. And I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty easy. And
better
it's
than French fries.
But yeah, Michael's favorite script. Would you like fries with that? But
well, if you got a 3-line dialer, I don't know what you guys are using, but that's that 8 times that 8 times 3.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, and I'm not even talking 3-line dialers. I'm talking your standard person making somewhere between 35 and 50 calls an hour, and I think that's relatively simple. To your point, if you're calling Sphere, then you're probably going to make less calls an hour, just simply because you talk more, because you have more in common, because you have more relationship with these people. But, if you can get it to that is an absolutely amazing number. And here's the thing, guys, anyone who's listening, I don't know what else you're going to do to make $10 every time you pick up a phone. So, great job. And I appreciate the fact that you're hardworking. We pick on all the millennials sometimes. So you look like you might be a millennial. You're definitely younger than me. Sounds like some of them actually do work for everyone who's out there bashing on millennials. Ryan breaks the mold. So,
yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I got to agree. Definitely breaks the mold. Go ahead, Shree. Sorry, go ahead.
I had this one, I had this admin, and she used to, her job was to make sure that I was making my calls when I was supposed to make my calls, and I wasn't drifting off. And because I told her, hey, you want job stability? You better make sure I'm on the phone. So she made sure I was on the phone. And I remember she said to me one day, she says, your phone, every time it rings, it's like money coming in. Like, your phone is money. She's like, it's the best thing ever. I want my phone to be money. I like what Brian just touched on. And so I've got a question for you. With those contacts that eventually do turn into contracts, you mentioned in reference to knowing your numbers, how far, and you said that you'd look at that goal and you dial it all the way back. So every day, you have to do what in order to hit that goal?
Okay, so
you have to do what to hit what? Like, how get into
yeah, so this is really simple. So and it's amazing how, with expireds, for me, it's you've got this 30% rule through every section, and it's amazing how close to 30% it actually is. So for every 30 expired leads, I'm able to actually physically talk to 10 of them. So 20 of them, it's either I struggle to get the phone numbers. So we live in a market where there's a lot of second homeowners here, so it can, so I actually get to physically have a conversation with 10 of them. If I physically have a conversation with 10 of them, I book 3 appointments. And if I book 3 appointments, I get 1 listing. So it takes 30 expired leads for me to get 1 listing. So by knowing that, I can basically work out that, from, I can take my business plan and I can look at how many listings I need to get throughout the year in order to make a certain amount of money. And then what that gives me the ability to do is to focus on, I know that every time there's 30 listings expire from my market, I get a listing. So I'm looking at a certain geographic area that I know is going to produce that kind of that number of expired, so that I can ultimately convert them into listings. But one mistake that I made early on, actually, and this might be good for the viewers. Is I used to have too many leads. I used to focus on this, like the entire county, of like all price ranges, and and when I say expired, I'm really talking about, I know that they're called, something different in every market, but expired, withdrawn.
No, they pretty much call them expired.
Okay, but cancelled, withdrawn, so like everything, if it comes off the market, I'm calling it. So I actually think that the perfect number of leads for me is between 2 or 3 a day. If I'm getting more than that, and the reason is, I actually call my expired leads every day for 2 weeks. So if somebody expires from the market, they're getting a call from me every day for 2 weeks. So if you work that out, if you are making those calls for 14 days, I mean, even if you're getting two new expired leads every day, that means that you're making 30 calls a day just to keep up with, again, that commitment.
Wait a minute. I hope that our viewers are really hearing what you just said, because we have people who only call what comes down that day, and that's it. That's all they call. So what you're saying is that you're still calling them 2 weeks later. And tell me this, have you noticed that when you get someone on the phone and it's day 14 of you calling them, that there's not a whole lot of agents that are still calling at that point?
Oh my word! I mean, they've heard a voicemail from me every day. So I mean, that's, they already know, they already know who I am. Usually when I do finally get in touch with them. And don't get me wrong, I mean, it's not, So somebody said to me in fact, years ago, when I was I actually came from banking, and somebody said to me when I was in banking that for every person that gets annoyed that you've been trying to call them too much, there's 9 missed opportunities of those that you didn't call enough. And so I'm actually, so when I do get that pissed off person, and don't get, and it is frustrating for them. They get, they come off the market, they've not had a showing for however long, and then suddenly the day that it comes off, they get 30, 60, 70 agents all trying to call them on the same day, and it is frustrating for them. So I can completely relate to it. But I mean, they're not, I understand that they're not frustrated at me. They're frustrated at the process. If they knew me, I'm sure that they would be fine. So I mean, it's just, you kind of have to have a thick skin with it. That's all.
So before I want to ask a question to Brian, we're going to get right to your question next. Just really quick, of everybody that's watching this, how many expireds are you calling per day right now? I'm just curious. Everybody that's watching, if the answer is 0, type in 0. If it's 2, type in 2. I'm just curious, how many expireds is everybody on Facebook watching this right now? How many are you calling each day? Brian, go ahead.
So I wanted to take an opportunity because I feel like Ryan's doing an amazing job. Some of the things I wanted to point out that he talked about, he knows his numbers exactly. I make X number of calls, I get X number of conversations, I get X number of appointments, and which leads to X number of listings. The X is, sort of irrelevant. But one of the things that's great about this, we haven't really touched on it, is we can look at Ryan's business and we can say, first of all, we can scale it. We can say, okay, all we have to do is call more people. Now, I understand that when we're talking about expireds, and that may be not necessarily an impossibility, but my firm belief is that there's 2 ways to close more transactions: either talk to more people or do better with the people that you're with. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Ryan. I've heard a word of his listing presentation. Seems like he's an amazing guy. But I'll say this: if I was going to key in on something, one of the things that Ryan can do is he can look at, okay, if I go on 3 listing appointments, why am I only getting 1? And, it's interesting that there's an area that perhaps he could do better at. I don't know. Maybe he's killing everybody else. I don't know. But the nice thing about knowing your numbers is it tells a story. And I can tell you that 95% of these people watching our show right now don't know their numbers. They don't know their story. And if they want to work on something, they don't know where to go. So again, I'm not saying Ryan could do any better because he sounds like he's an amazing guy, but at least we can identify an area that he could potentially improve. And that is the thing that most of us are missing. We don't even know where we need to get better because we haven't looked at our numbers. So I just want to congratulate you,
Brian. There's always improvements to be made, always.
I know, only known you for 10.
No, it's I know. No, it's and that's what constant and consistent improvement is what's required by what's required by all of us, and it's and of those three. It's usually what those numbers are is an immediate listing. So generally 30% of them just don't sell. They either take home off the market and whether they rent it, whether they take a break or whatever, and then the other 30% do list with somebody else. So I'm at like a 50-50, and I'm constantly trying to refine our process to make that 100%. It's there's no reason why I believe that there is a process and there is an offering that we could come up with that that would be very difficult for sellers to say no to, and we're still trying to work towards getting there.
Yeah. Here's the thing too. Some people are just not going to like you. Some people are going to feel more comfortable with somebody who's younger, somebody who's older, someone is a woman, someone is a man. So, and I will say this, the flip side of that, if there's anybody on this call, unless you're going on referral only appointments, who is getting 100% of their listings, what that means for me is you're not going on enough listings.
That's right.
Because if you're getting 100%, you're either better than anybody I've ever met, or you're not going on enough. And so, I applaud you for being willing to understand that a third of them will not relist. So I can only get 67% and is really 100%. And so again, understanding your numbers. And I think of all the guests that we've had on the show, you know your numbers at least as well as the best of them. So, I think you can't get more than 100%, but I feel like you're really on top of that. And, for all the people who aren't analytical and are trying to go to sleep, as Ryan talks about the exact numbers as we go along, it's not, I'm sure Ryan doesn't sit in front of it every day and get bored out of his mind, but he knows what his work does for him. And he knows where he can put energy and where he can put effort just based on those numbers. So I want to applaud you for knowing that.
Brian, let me jump in here just really quick. One thing, you guys, that I want you to keep in mind, Sheree, I know you've got something to add, so I'll make it quick. But I want you guys to look in the chat in the Facebook group here. I have put a link in there for the Win the Day tracker. So, Brian, you just nailed it. You said that tracking your numbers and understanding your numbers tells a story. And it really does, because when I know my numbers, if I know how many calls it takes to get an appointment, how many appointments it takes to get a listing, et cetera, it can tell me where I need improvement in my business, right? Like, I'll be able to see very clearly where I'm strong and where I need a little bit of help. And I can get the help that I need in that area. If you have a team, it'll also tell you where your team members need help, right? It's not always just about, hey, I got to get people making more calls, blah, blah, blah. No, it's also about we've got to refine our skill set in various parts of our business. And as we do the numbers and we refine our skill set, that's when the magic happens. That's when we start getting a lot more listings happening. Sheree, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to skip half of what I was going to say because you just said it. Great. But the other part is that, like, for myself, when I'm making calls and I know that I've got to hit, if I'm talking to, let's say, 20, I know I'm setting these 2 appointments, and I don't, when I say contacts, I'm not talking about now. Well, at first I was, when I started doing this, it was you got the wrong number. Oh, that was a contact. I'm like, okay, that counts, but then it changed to what kind of conversations did I need to have? And in doing that, when I think back to those early 2016, 2015 days, that is what got me to continue to make the phone calls, because I knew what my numbers were. So if I was at call number 15, I knew I got 5 more people that need to answer this phone, and I'm setting appointments. Like, I knew that. I knew what those numbers were. So it became somewhat of a motivating thing outside of just diving deep into how I can fix this, So we just go back to start tracking yourself. And I started tracking it originally with just the little, what's it called? Tally marks, like I'm in third grade. So I started tracking it first with the little tally marks, just to see, and then circle which one. Okay, that was an appointment. That was an appointment. And I tracked myself over and over and over again until I realized what worked for me. And what worked for me was this amount of contacts. I knew what I was going to hit. I knew what was going to happen. And some days, man, I was on fire. It was like, bam, 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 bam. Maybe I need to rethink what my numbers are. But then the next day, oh no, that average ended up back around the same when I only did it Monday through Friday, because obviously I need to get my weight up, because Ryan's was doing this on Saturday too. So I was so that's something that I think people need to dial back and to start to look at. Start with the little tally marks if you don't know all of that, because those of us who've been making these phone calls for a while, we know how to, this is the number that I want, and let me dissect it all the way back down. But let's just start off with where you are today and how you can just get better today, and start tracking yourself today so that we can see where those adjustments need to be made, and what's your truth in it. How many does it take? You have to know it, or else you're just pulling numbers out of the wind. And that's not the way that you want to do business at all.
Absolutely. I'm sure that that's just a fantastic point. I don't know if I think that this point might have been touched on, but maybe it's not been. I don't think that this point's really been hammered home in the way that I think it should be, because it's very important. When you know your numbers, you can compete with absolutely anybody, because you know what it's going to take to get to there. I obviously mentioned my colleague who's just down the hall here. I can take what his production is, and I can calculate what it's going to take for me to get to that kind of production. And if it's going on this number of appointments, and if it's taking the process that I've developed, I can work out how big my team needs to be with my model, in order to get there. And I can ultimately, you can compete with anybody. It's because that's what's so exciting to me.
Well, and go ahead, Sri.
Okay. So, I was going to ask a question. So if you want to.
Well, I want to further that point that, again, you guys, when we talk about success being boring, this is kind of some of the stuff we're talking about, right? It's not exciting to get there, but it's very predictable to get there. And we're not just talking about the people that do FSBOs and expireds and cold calls. Although those things work, there's lots of other things you can do too to create predictability in your business. But what you have to understand is, one, you got to understand your numbers. That's why the Win the Day tracker is really helpful. Go get it. It's free. Just download it. But and the link's right there. That being said, if you don't know how to do this, get with your coach. Sit down with your coach. Have your coach walk you through it. Whether you're coaching with Club Wealth or anybody else, your coach should know how to walk you through this, how to help you work the numbers backwards to figure out, okay, if I want to make X and I'm doing these activities, how much of these activities do I have to do to make X? And if I'm building a team and I want to make X in net income, how many people do I need to have on my team, and what do their numbers need to be on average in order for me to make that kind of money in net income? Because gross doesn't matter. Forget about gross, guys. That doesn't matter. It's all about what you keep at the end of the day. And so stop overcomplicating it. Stop looking for shiny objects and get down to brass tacks and know your freaking numbers. Sri, go ahead.
So in knowing all of that, and now that you've in these 3 years since you really started to 4 years, well, almost 4 years, what is it that's keeping you going? Because like Michael said, success is pretty boring. I mean, we get up and we can do the same thing and no one talked to me until 11 o'clock over and over and over and over again. So what is driving you to keep going? And then what's the next thing coming from you? Like, what is it that Ryan has that we haven't even seen yet?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I mean, I don't see that there's any reason why I can't be the number one producer in my area. We've currently got, our production is at a little over 30 million a year. This year it should stretch out to 40 plus, but so and I'm sure that every market's going to be slightly different, but there's one person. In fact, when I set this goal, nobody in my market had ever broke 100 million, and I set a goal, my goal was actually to be the first person ever to break 100 million in my market, and but since then somebody's gone ahead and done it, and they've done it now for the last couple of years. So when I don't know what it was, but I just the opportunity is there. If I'm going to commit, if the opportunity is there for us to build anything that we wish to build, and why none of us got into this business to be a mediocre agent. Why not aim for the top? Why not go for the best? So my goal is now, since I've not become the first person to do 100 million, my goal now is to be the first one to do 200 million. It's and that's and why not? I mean, it's the opportunities there, and and that's it's kind of shallow, and it's actually, but to kind of that from the business standpoint, I mean, I think it's I've always been quite very competitive, and and I like to think big, and there's no reason there's no reason not to, there's no reason that we can't be at that level. There's no reason that anybody can't be at that level. But I came here from a foreign country, and although a lot of people, I've had a lot of people say that it must be easy with your accent and whatnot, and don't get me wrong, it is easy for people to recognize it, but it's also difficult to be different. There's a lot of people that have grown up here. There's a lot of people that are well connected, and I'm just not. And it's been a journey to move to the United States. It's been very, very difficult at times, and I didn't go through everything that I haven't been through everything that I've been through to not be the best that I can possibly be. Since getting into the business, we've myself and my wife now have a couple of kids. We've got two children under the age of 3, and that's just brought a whole new world of motivation for me. It's and I always knew that I would have a family, and I always knew that I was ultimately working for my family. But now the family's here. Now we've got kids, and it's amazing to me how, like, I feel like I've just got into the business, and I and this is my 4th year, and it's amazing how quickly how quick time passes. I was actually just thinking about this with my wife, and so I'm 31 years old, and I was saying to my wife, it feels like I was literally like my life, when I think about when I think about my life, it's almost like it's been I feel so young. I feel terribly young, and I've really got that amount of time again in order to create this amazing world that I want to create around myself. And considering that's, so I've got another, however long, 25 years, whatever it is, before I'm ready to retire. I've just done 4 years in the business, and and that has gone by like the quick, like a click of a finger. So although 25 years might sound like a long time, I think I'm very, to me, I don't think it is going to be, to me, I think about this a lot, and I think about how little time we've actually got to make an impact, and how much every single day counts, because it's very, very easy to squander a day. It's also very easy to squander a week, and to squander a month, and before you know it, you're squandering a year. And it really starts with it really starts with not wasting a minute, and by being as productive as you possibly can be throughout every day that you're given, so that we can live, for me, to live a nice life in retirement. I've got this dream to I actually, myself and my wife, really we like to, have a glass of wine at night. And I love the idea of us retiring on a vineyard, Northern California, making our own wine and just, traveling the world and, and having boats, having the ability to, to live a life that I know that we can, that I know that we can live, and ultimately, changing the trajectory of our family for however many generations come after us. And and it's, I don't know if that answers the question at all, but just really giving some deep thought into what, who is Ryan in 10 years, who is Ryan in 20 years, who is Ryan in 30 years, and and then the little things that pull you away from not making calls between 8:30 and 10:30. It's, if somebody, to me, if somebody's not able to commit to that time, it's really a small amount of time throughout the day. If somebody's not able to commit to that, then they're just not passionate enough about their future.
So when you told us 200 million, did you think that's attainable?
Well, my goal was to do 100 million in the year 2020. This was a few years ago, and that's become a long shot. Who knows? I mean, it could happen. But there's certainly been, a few changes with our team along the way that have definitely, and here's the thing, as you grow, the problems change and increase and get completely different. It's our team, all the problems that I'm facing now at a $40 million a year producer are very different to the problems that I faced as a $20 million a year producer. And but yeah, I mean, there's no reason why. So I believe that I'm in a market where no agent, no team are working to the level that this market could be worked. We are sitting on a gold mine. We are, there's opportunity everywhere I see. There's development all over the city. There's people moving here. There's nothing but an abundant amount of opportunity. And with the correct structure and with the correct process and with the correct operations behind a team, I believe that you could capture a much larger part of the market than anybody's been able to do up to yet.
I know we're running out of time.
Oh, sorry. Let me just jump in really quick. So, Ryan, I want to ask you something really quick. How many people are on your team now? How many agents?
So just me and one other agent.
You and one other agent. Okay, yeah. So you said, hey, I really want to hit 200 million, and you're doing 40 million with two of you. So the math is pretty simple. You need 10 of you to do 200 million.
Absolutely.
So it seems to me that your priority right now should be recruiting.
Absolutely.
And that should be a major push for you right now in the coming year is how do we get to 10 to 15 people on the team so that we can get that production up. And frankly, 40 million with two people sounds miserable to me, dude. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I would much rather have 10 people doing 50 million than two people doing 40, man. That's
yeah, no, it's just how it panned out, unfortunately, but I agree with you.
All right, so Cherie made a point. We are out of time, so we've got to go to final thoughts. So Cherie, ladies first, give us your final thoughts, and then Brian, and then Ryan, and then I'll wrap it up.
So I think for me, one thing is that, Ryan, I want you to really think about what Michael just said, and it's all about scales. We've been talking about scales. We've been talking about numbers. You mentioned the word problems and what you're facing right now. And those aren't problems. Those are just different opportunities right there. Because as you grow, you'll see different things. And I really, truly believe that with this consistent path that you're going on, these are just little hurdles that you have to go through. You just have to go through them. So get through them, overcome them, start growing, and I think you're going to just soar. I think looking back, 200 million, you might say, why did I aim so low? Versus why did I aim so high? One thing is that you said that early on when you couldn't even afford it, you got into coaching. That's something that you did say, even when you couldn't afford it. And we hear a lot of times, a lot of people say, oh, I wish not that I wish. Well, I take that back. The top producers do say, I wish I would have did this sooner. You did it right out the gate. Whereas I hear a lot of, that's something that I just can't afford. And I do want to tell people that might be something that you that you cannot afford not to do. A lot of double negatives in there. But think about that for everybody who's listening. You know, there are still, I don't know if there's still seats available do we still have room in Listing Agent Bootcamp?
Listing Agent Bootcamp, I think we've got literally 1 or 2 VIP tickets left, if that. And we've got, for the regular general admission tickets, we do have a couple left, but it's below 10. I know we're down below 10.
So remember that if you listen back on this, Ryan said that he went to a seminar and that's where he found his tribe. That's where he found the people that related to him. That's what shifted his change and his growth. So those of you guys that are listening, I want you to hone in on that. And would we love to have you at Club Wealth? And Michael didn't tell me to say this. Would we love to have you there? Yes, we would. But I remember back me going to my very first one and how that shifted things for me. So people who are listening, please make a decision to make a change. And we're still early 2019. You just got to do it. Congratulations on everything that you've had so far, Ryan. You haven't even touched it. Sorry, that was a long time.
That's all right. Okay, with 30 seconds or less, Brian, you're next.
I just want to congratulate you for taking action. And you know, if you guys don't hear anything else, what I heard a lot of stuff, but what I heard is Ryan took action. Guys, we don't split the atom for a living. We sell real estate. The majority of people who don't succeed in this, it's an effort issue. It's not a training issue. It's not a ability issue. It's just an effort issue. And I really feel like, Ryan, if there's one thing for sure, is if you want to do 200 million, you will. And, you know, it's if you set that goal out there, I have no doubt that we'll have an interview with you in a couple of years and we can talk about how 200 million is just a walk in the park. So congratulations on where you're at and where you're going. And I look forward to seeing the journey.
Love it. Ryan, any last thoughts?
No, just very, very appreciative of you guys having me on here. I mean, it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you and the group here. And if anybody wants to connect, I mean, it's you know, feel free to Facebook, Instagram. Hopefully, we can tag the you know, tag these things here. I'd love to connect with you, and you know, I'm always available if anybody wants to pick up the phone, send me an email. You know, it's always happy to talk. And Sarasota referrals, send them my way. We'll take care of them for you.
Love it. And Ryan, I just sent you a link so you can make sure you get joined into our Facebook group. You can get to know more people in there. And folks, we got to wrap it up. Hopefully Ryan will take the same action you guys need to take right now, or a lot of you need to take, which is give WiseHire a call and freaking get recruiting. Get some people on your team. If you don't already have connection with WiseHire, get going. clubwealth.com/WiseHire. Guys, everybody here has a world-class beast just dying to get out, waiting inside you just to get out into that world and be world-class. You got to unleash that beast. So go take massive and potentially boring action today and become world-class. Take care, everybody. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Bye.